1 year after the war ended, the galaxy looked very different. The Varathian Empire no longer existed. In its place stood the Varathian Republic, a democratic government elected by the Varathian people. Their military was reduced to defensive forces only. Their slave species were all free. The age of conquest was over. President Young Mi stood at the dedication ceremony for Harmony Station. It was a massive diplomatic hub built jointly by humans, Varathians, Keltharians, and 47 freed species. Ships from 200 worlds filled the space around it. This was the new galaxy, a galaxy of cooperation instead of conquest. "We gather here today not as victors and defeated," Young Mi said to the assembled representatives. "We gather as equals, as partners. The war taught us that tyranny can be defeated, but it also taught us the cost of that victory. 200 million humans died. Billions of others across the galaxy suffered. We must never forget that price. We must make sure it was not paid in vain." Ambassador Talaria, now president of the Galactic Council, spoke next. "For 1,000 years my people and others lived in fear. We accepted domination because we thought resistance was impossible. Humanity showed us we were wrong. One species, young and small, refused to accept the inevitable. That courage changed everything. The Free Worlds Coalition exists because of human courage. We will never forget that." A Varathian representative also spoke. It was Krathia, the council member who voted for surrender. "My species committed terrible crimes. We enslaved, we destroyed, we conquered. We cannot undo those actions. But we can change. We can build a better future. Humanity could have destroyed us completely. Instead, you helped us transform. You showed mercy when we showed none. For that, we are grateful." Admiral Jiwan had retired from military service. She wrote a book about the war called Fighting Smart. It became required reading at military academies across the galaxy. In the book, she explained humanity's strategy. Never fight the enemy's way. Always adapt. Always innovate. Never stop learning. She spent her retirement training the new coalition defense forces. Officers from dozens of species learned from her. They studied human tactics. They learned about quantum communication networks. They practiced coordinated maneuvers. Jiwan was building an army that could defend freedom across the galaxy. Admiral Jae-hoon, youngest fleet commander in human history, led those coalition defense forces. He was only 28 years old, but he had more combat experience than most officers twice his age. Under his command, the coalition maintained peace. Pirates and warlords learned quickly that the new galaxy would not tolerate aggression. Dr. Rin opened the Galactic Research Institute on Mars. Scientists from 200 species worked together there, sharing knowledge freely. The quantum communication technology became standard across the galaxy. The quantum lance was studied and improved. But Rin's team also worked on peaceful technology, better medicine, cleaner energy, faster ships. She made an interesting discovery while analyzing old Varathian records. The quantum lance technology had actually been invented by the Varathians themselves, centuries ago. But they abandoned it, thinking their existing weapons were good enough. That decision cost them everything. The Varathians lost because they stopped innovating, Rin explained to her students. They grew comfortable with their power. They assumed their superiority was permanent. That was their fatal mistake. Humanity won not because we had better technology, but because we never stopped improving. That is the lesson. Never become satisfied. Never stop learning. Captain Daejung returned to New Seoul to help rebuild. The colony was still mostly ruins, but progress was being made. New buildings rose from the ashes. Farms started producing food again. Families returned to their homes. It would take a generation to fully recover, but recovery had begun. Daejung himself became governor of New Seoul. He applied the lessons learned from guerrilla warfare to peacetime governance. Be flexible, listen to people, adapt to changing situations. Under his leadership, New Seoul became stronger than before the war, but the war left scars. Memorial stations floated in orbit above every destroyed colony. Names of the dead were carved into walls that stretched for kilometers. 200 million names, 200 million humans who died fighting for freedom. President Young Mi visited the memorial stations often. She read names at random. Engineers, soldiers, children, farmers, scientists, teachers. They came from all walks of life. They died for the same cause, the right to exist freely. "We won the war," she said at one memorial, "but the cost was terrible. These people gave everything so others could be free. We honor them by building a galaxy where such wars are never necessary again. We honor them by being worthy of their sacrifice. On Varathis Prime, young Varathians grew up in a different world than their parents. They learned about the Empire's crimes in school. They studied the war and understood why their species lost. Some felt shame. Others felt relief that the old ways were gone. A generation of Varathians chose to study with humans. They wanted to understand the species that defeated them. They learned about human history, human culture, human philosophy. They discovered that humans were not inherently superior. Humans simply refused to give up. The Galactic Council transformed completely. No longer a group of frightened observers, they became active peacekeepers. They established the Non-Aggression Compact. Any species that signed agreed to respect the sovereignty of others. Any species that violated the compact faced unified resistance from all members. 180 species signed the compact in the first year. More joined every month. The age of empires was truly over. The age of cooperation had begun. Trade flourished across the galaxy. Technology was shared freely. Cultural exchanges happened constantly. Species that had never interacted before became partners, friends, allies. The galaxy was unified not by force but by mutual benefit. But security remained important. The Coalition Defense Forces patrolled constantly. They stopped pirates. They prevented conflicts before they started. They rescued ships in distress. Under Admiral Jehoon's command, the forces became a symbol of the new order. 5 years after the war, President Youngmi prepared to step down. Her term was ending and she chose not to run again. She had led humanity through its darkest hour. Now it was time for new leadership to guide humanity through peace. In her final speech as president, she reflected on what the war meant. We fought because we had no choice. We won because we refused to lose. But our greatest victory was not military. Our greatest victory was showing the galaxy that another way is possible. That species can cooperate as equals. That might does not make right. That freedom is worth fighting for. She paused, looking at the diverse audience. Humans, Varathians, Keltharians, and dozens of other species all listening together. The Varathian Empire was defeated not just by weapons but by an idea. The idea that all beings have the right to determine their own destiny. That idea is now spreading across the galaxy. That is our true legacy. In the Terran Intelligence Archives, a classified report sat unread by most. Captain Daejung had written it during the war. He discovered something disturbing in captured Varathian records. Humanity was not the first species to resist the Empire. 7 others had tried over the past 1,000 years. All were annihilated so completely that even their names were erased from history. Humanity survived where others failed for one reason. They did not fight alone. They built alliances. They shared knowledge. They inspired others to join them. Unity was the key to victory. The report's final line read, "We did not win because we were special. We won because we refused to fight alone. May we never forget those who tried before us and failed. May we honor their memory by ensuring no species ever faces such tyranny again." Years passed. The war became history. Children who were born after the war learned about it in school. They learned about the Varathian Empire and its fall. They learned about human courage and sacrifice. They learned about cooperation and unity. Most importantly, they learned why the war was fought. Not for territory. Not for resources. Not for glory. It was fought for the right to be free. The right to live without fear. The right to determine their own future. The galaxy remembered that lesson. Memorials stood on 1,000 worlds. Treaties protected the rights of all species. The Coalition Defense Forces stood ready to defend freedom. The Varathian Empire challenged humanity, thinking they were just another species to conquer. They learned too late that some things cannot be conquered. Freedom, determination, the human spirit. On Harmony Station, in the Grand Hall where representatives from 200 worlds met regularly, a plaque hung on the wall. It contained a simple message in every known language. Never again will might make right. Never again will tyranny go unchallenged. Never again will any species stand alone against oppression. This we pledge, united and free. Below the plaque was a smaller inscription, dedicated to the 200 million humans and billions of others who died fighting for this future. May we prove worthy of their sacrifice. The war was over. The age of empires had ended. A new age had begun. An age where species worked together, learned from each other, and defended each other. Axiom Point Station floated in empty space far from any star. It was neutral territory, owned by the Galactic Council. President Youngmi arrived with a small delegation. Admiral Jiwan accompanied her, as did diplomat Hyunsu. They were ready to negotiate, but they were also ready to fight. Commander Vexith arrived in a massive Varathian battleship. He brought military advisors and political officials. When the two delegations met in the conference room, the tension was thick. These beings had been trying to kill each other for 8 months. Now they sat across a table from each other. Ambassador Talaria opened the meeting. "We are here to discuss terms for ending this conflict. Both sides have suffered greatly. Both sides have shown courage. Now we must show wisdom." Vexith spoke first. "The Varathian Empire is willing to recognize human sovereignty over your current territory. In exchange, humanity will pay tribute and provide military support to the Empire when requested." Young Mai laughed. It was not a friendly laugh. "You want us to pay you for the privilege of existing? You want us to fight your wars? Commander, you seem confused about who is winning this conflict." "The Empire has vast resources," Vexith replied. "We can continue this war for decades if necessary." "Can you?" Admiral Jiwan asked. She placed a data device on the table. "These are casualty reports. Your casualty reports. In 8 months, you have lost more ships than in the previous century of conquest. Your subject species are rebelling. Your High Council removed your previous commander in disgrace. How long before they remove you too?" Vexith's face showed no emotion, but everyone could see he was angry. The humans had intelligence they should not have. Someone was helping them. But he said nothing about that. Instead, he tried a different approach. "What do you want?" he asked simply. Young Mai presented humanity's demands: complete Varathian withdrawal from all contested systems, recognition of Terran sovereignty with no tribute or obligations, reparations for destroyed colonies, and most importantly, the release of all Varathian slave species and dissolution of the Empire's tributary system. The Varathian delegation reacted with shock. "You want us to free our subject species? That is impossible. The Empire would collapse." "Then it collapses," Young Mi said coldly. "Your empire is built on slavery and conquest. We will not make peace with slavers. Either you change or we destroy you. Those are your only options." Vexith stood up. "This is not negotiation. This is surrender. The Varathian Empire does not surrender. We will continue the war." He and his delegation left the station. The peace conference had failed. Young Mi turned to Talaria. "Thank you for trying. Now we finish this the hard way." News of the failed negotiations spread across the galaxy. 3 more Varathian subject species immediately declared independence. They had seen that humans demanded freedom for all slaves. This was not just a human war anymore. This was a war against tyranny itself. The Keltharian Union openly joined humanity's side. They provided ships, weapons, and warriors. Other species followed. Within weeks, a coalition formed. Humans, Keltharians, and freed slaves fighting together against the Empire. Captain Daijung left New Seoul on a coalition warship. He now commanded a fleet of resistance fighters from 6 different species. They shared tactics, technology, and stories. Daijung taught them guerrilla warfare. They taught him about Varathian weaknesses specific to different regions. The Varathian Empire faced its worst nightmare: multi-front rebellions. Their fleets were stretched impossibly thin, defending dozens of worlds simultaneously. Every week brought news of another defeat. The mighty empire was crumbling. Admiral Jiwan saw the opportunity. The Varathian military was in chaos. Now was the time to strike at the heart. She proposed an audacious plan to President Young Mi, a direct assault on Varathis Prime, the Varathian homeworld. "It is incredibly risky," Young Mi said. "If we fail, we lose our entire fleet. If we succeed, we end the war," Jiwan replied. "The Varathians have never been attacked at home. They think their homeworld is invincible. We show them nothing is invincible." Young Mai approved the operation. Admiral Jiwan assembled the largest coalition fleet in galactic history. 80 human capital ships, 40 Keltharian warships, 30 vessels from freed slave species, 150 ships total, heading toward the most defended planet in the Empire. Captain Jae-hoon, now an admiral himself, would lead the fighter assault. He had survived Vorax Prime and dozens of battles since. He was humanity's best pilot. His squadron was legendary across the galaxy. If anyone could break through Varathian defenses, it was him. The fleet jumped to Varathis Prime at dawn local time. The Varathian defenders were caught completely by surprise. Nobody had dared to attack the homeworld in 1,000 years. Alarm sirens wailed across the planet. The Varathian home fleet scrambled to respond. The battle was massive. 200 ships on each side, fighting in orbit above the Varathian capital city. The sky lit up with weapon fire. Ships exploded every few seconds. Admiral G1 coordinated the entire coalition fleet through quantum communication. Every captain knew exactly what to do. Jaehoon led his fighters through impossible maneuvers. The Varathians had never seen such precise flying. Human, Keltharian, and rebel fighters worked together like a single organism. They exploited every weakness, struck every vulnerable point. The coalition ships used their quantum lances to devastating effect. Varathian shields meant nothing. One by one, the defense stations orbiting Varathis Prime fell. The home fleet was being torn apart. On the surface, the Varathian High Council watched in horror. Their fleet was losing. Enemy ships filled their sky. For the first time in their history, the Varathians felt fear, real fear. Commander Vexith commanded the defense from his flagship. He fought brilliantly, destroying 6 coalition ships personally. But it was not enough. His forces were overwhelmed. After 3 days of continuous battle, his flagship was crippled. Half the Varathian home fleet was destroyed. Admiral G1 sent him a message. "Commander Vexith, your defense is broken. We can destroy your cities from orbit. We can turn your homeworld into ruins like you did to ours, or you can surrender. Choose now." Vexith stared at the message for a long time. He had 2 choices: continue fighting and watch his homeworld burn, or surrender and save his people. But surrender was disgrace. Surrender was betrayal of everything the Empire stood for. He made his decision. He sent a brief message to the High Council. "I have failed the Empire. I accept full responsibility." Then he walked to the airlock of his damaged ship and opened it. The vacuum of space killed him instantly. Varathian military tradition demanded death before dishonor. The High Council received news of Vexith's suicide. They looked at the enemy fleet in orbit. They looked at their burning ships. They looked at the future and saw only destruction. One of the council members, an old female named Krathia, stood up. "Enough," she said. "This war is over. Contact the humans. Tell them we accept their terms." The other council members protested. "We cannot surrender. The Empire has never surrendered." Krathia's voice was cold. "The Empire has never lost a war before. Now we have. Now we adapt or we die. I choose adaptation." The vote was close, but surrender won. A Varathian official contacted Admiral G1. "The Varathian Empire accepts your terms. We request immediate ceasefire." G1 ordered all coalition ships to cease fire. The guns fell silent. The battle was over. The war was over. After 10 months of brutal combat, humanity and its allies had defeated the deadliest empire in the galaxy. President Young Mi received the news on Earth. She stood alone in her office for a long moment, processing what had happened. They won. Humanity won. Tears ran down her face. Tears of relief, of grief for those who died, of pride for those who survived. Across human space, celebrations erupted. People danced in the streets. Families reunited. Soldiers came home. The war was over and they were free. Dr. Hayrin stood in her laboratory and smiled. Her weapons had helped win the war. But more importantly, her quantum communication network had changed warfare forever. Perfect coordination was humanity's true advantage. She would make sure that technology was shared with their new allies. Admiral Jaehoon landed his fighter for the last time. He was exhausted. He had fought in 63 battles and lost half his friends. But he survived. Humanity survived. That was worth everything. Captain Daijung stood in the ruins of New Seoul and watched Varathian troops evacuate. They left quietly, defeated. The colonists who survived began planning to rebuild. It would take years to repair the damage, but they would rebuild. Humans always rebuilt. The war was over. The Varathian Empire had challenged humanity. It was their last error. Across the galaxy, other species watched the human-Varathian war with growing interest. The Galactic Council held secret meetings. For 1,000 years, they had been too afraid to challenge the Varathian Empire. Now one young species was doing what they never dared. Ambassador Talaria of the Keltharian Union was a tall, elegant alien with silver skin and large eyes. She had served on the Galactic Council for 50 years. She had watched the Varathians conquer species after species. Each time the Council did nothing. But humans were different. The humans have lasted 6 months, she told her fellow council members. No species has resisted this long. Perhaps it is time we help them. The other ambassadors looked nervous. Help them? If the Varathians discover we assisted their enemy, they will attack us next. Talaria shook her head. The Varathians are already weakened. Have you seen their casualty reports? They have lost more ships fighting humans than they lost conquering the last 10 species combined. If humans can resist, perhaps we all can. The council argued for hours. Finally, they voted. The result was narrow but clear. The Galactic Council would secretly support humanity. They would provide intelligence, nothing more. It was a small step, but it was something. Talaria traveled to Earth in an unmarked ship. She met with President Young Mi in a secure location. The two leaders studied each other carefully. This was a historic moment. The first formal alliance between humans and another species. Why help us? Young Mi asked directly. What does the Keltharian Union gain? Talaria smiled. Hope. For 1,000 years we have lived in fear of the Varathians. We pay them tribute. We follow their rules. We surrender our freedom to avoid destruction. But you showed us something. You showed us that the Empire can bleed. If you win this war, the entire galaxy changes. That is worth any risk. And if we lose, then at least we tried. At least we did something instead of watching another species die. Young Mi agreed to the alliance. Talaria provided detailed intelligence on Varathian fleet movements, supply routes, and weapon specifications. This information was priceless. Admiral G1 immediately began planning new operations using the data. Meanwhile, the Varathian Empire faced unexpected problems. On the conquered world of Draxia, slave workers revolted. They had heard about humans fighting back. If humans could resist, why could they not? The rebellion spread quickly. Varathian troops were sent to crush it. Warlord Thexeral realized the danger. The human war was inspiring other species. If rebellion spread throughout the Empire, the Varathians would face conflicts on hundreds of worlds simultaneously. They did not have enough troops for that. We must defeat the humans quickly, he told the High Council. Every day this war continues, we look weaker. Every day our subject species grow braver. We need overwhelming force. We need to crush humanity so completely that no one else dares to resist. The Council agreed. They would send additional fleets to human space. 100 capital ships. 500 support vessels. Enough firepower to destroy every human colony 3 times over. But gathering such a force would take time. Time the humans were using wisely. Dr. Hayrin completed her weapon ahead of schedule. The Quantum Lance, she called it. It was a directed energy weapon that operated on the same frequency as Varathian shields. In testing, it passed through shields like they were not even there. The weapon had limitations. It overheated quickly and required enormous power. But it worked. We can produce 12 quantum lances, she told Admiral G1, 1 for each capital ship in the fleet. More than that will take months. G1 nodded. 12 is enough. We will use them carefully. The Varathians must not know about this weapon until the critical moment. The Admiral planned her most ambitious operation yet. Using Talaria's intelligence, she identified the main Varathian supply network. 12 fuel depots spread across 12 systems. These depots supplied the entire Varathian fleet in human space. Destroying them would cripple the enemy for months. The operation was called Lightbringer. 12 human ships, each equipped with a quantum lance, would strike all 12 depots simultaneously. Perfect coordination through quantum communication. Maximum surprise. One devastating blow. Captain Jae-hoon was chosen to lead the fighter assault on the largest depot, Vorax Prime. It was a massive installation orbiting a gas giant. Hundreds of Varathian ships refueled there every day. It was also heavily defended. This is a one-way mission, Admiral G1 told him privately. You will have enough fuel to reach Vorax Prime. You will not have enough to return. Evacuation ships will try to recover you, but the Varathians will be everywhere. You understand? Jae-hoon understood. This was a suicide mission. But if it succeeded, humanity might win the war. He volunteered without hesitation. So did every pilot in his squadron. Operation Lightbringer launched at midnight Earth time. 12 human capital ships jumped to 12 different systems simultaneously. The quantum lances powered up. Varathian defenders barely had time to realize they were under attack before the lances fired. At Vorax Prime, Jehun led his squadron through a storm of enemy fire. Varathian fighters swarmed around them. 2 human pilots died in the first 30 seconds. Jehun pushed forward. His target was the main fuel tank, a massive sphere containing enough antimatter to power 1,000 ships. All fighters focus on the fuel tank, he commanded. Ignore everything else. We only get one chance at this. The human capital ship fired its quantum lance at the depot's shields. The beam passed through like the shields were not there. It struck the central reactor. Explosions rippled through the installation. Jehun saw his opening. Now, he shouted. Fire everything! 20 fighters unleashed their entire weapon payload into the fuel tank. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the tank ruptured. The antimatter inside met normal matter. The resulting explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. Jehun barely escaped the blast wave. Half his squadron was not as lucky, but the mission succeeded. Vorax Prime was gone, so were 11 other fuel depots. The Varathian fleet suddenly had no fuel. Their ships were stranded. Warlord Thexral stared at the reports in disbelief. 12 depots destroyed in 12 minutes. Perfect coordination. Unknown weapon technology. The humans had just done the impossible. His fleet was now crippled. Without fuel, his ships could not move, could not fight. The High Council summoned him immediately. How did this happen? How did the humans know where all our depots were located? Thexral had no answer. He suspected a spy, but he could not prove it. The Council was furious. You have disgraced the Empire. You are removed from command. Commander Vexith will replace you. Thexral left the Council chambers in shame. His career was over. His reputation destroyed. All because he underestimated humans. Commander Vexith was younger than Thexral and more pragmatic. He studied the human war carefully. The humans were not winning through superior technology. They were winning through superior tactics, coordination, and will. They refused to accept defeat even when logic said they should surrender. Vexith realized something important. The Empire could not win this war through traditional means. The humans were too adaptable. Every time the Varathians developed a new tactic, the humans countered it within days. This war would only end in 2 ways. Total annihilation of one side or negotiation. He sent a secret message to President Young Mi. The message said simply, "Let us talk." Young Mi shared the message with her advisors. Some wanted to refuse. Why negotiate when humanity was winning? But others, including diplomat Hyunsu, saw an opportunity. War was expensive. Every day cost lives. If peace was possible, they should explore it. We will negotiate, Young Mi decided, but only as equals. We will not bow. We will not surrender anything. If the Varathians want peace, it will be on our terms. Ambassador Talaria agreed to host the peace conference on neutral ground, a station called Axiom Point, far from both human and Varathian space. The meeting was set for 1 month from now. Both sides agreed to a temporary ceasefire. On New Seoul, Captain Dae-jung received word of the ceasefire. His resistance fighters celebrated. They had survived. They had fought the most powerful empire in the galaxy and lived. But Dae-jung remained cautious. Ceasefires were temporary. Peace negotiations often failed. He ordered his fighters to remain ready. Across human space, people dared to hope. Maybe the war was ending. Maybe they could rebuild their destroyed colonies. Maybe their families would come home. But everyone remembered President Young Mi's warning. Hope for peace, but prepare for war. Because if negotiations failed, the fighting would be worse than before. The Varathian fleet struck the outer colonies first. New Seoul burned. The orbital defenses lasted only 2 hours before Varathian plasma cannons tore them apart. From the surface, colonists watched fire rain from the sky. Evacuation ships launched by the thousands, fleeing toward the inner systems. Admiral Ji-won watched the reports coming in from all the attacked colonies. The numbers were terrible, but she remained calm. This was expected. The outer colonies were bait. Let the Varathians think they were winning easily. Let them grow confident. Meanwhile, the main human fleet was preparing a surprise. Admiral, the Varathian fleet is moving toward New Seoul orbit, her tactical officer reported. They have 50 capital ships. We have 12, Ji-won smiled slightly. Good, that is exactly where we want them. Activate Project Horizon. Link all our ships to the quantum network. It is time to show the Varathians something new. On the bridge of every Terran ship, a new display appeared. Every captain could now see what every other captain saw. Every sensor reading, every target, every movement. It was like having one mind controlling 12 ships. Admiral Jiwan gave a simple order: execute pattern Delta. The 12 human ships moved as one. They did not charge directly at the Varathian fleet. Instead, they split into 3 groups, each group moving at different speeds, different angles. The Varathians found themselves confused. Human ships appeared where they should not be, fired from unexpected directions, then vanished before the Varathians could respond. Lieutenant Jae-hoon led his fighter squadron through the chaos. His orders came directly from Admiral Jiwan through the quantum link. Every pilot knew exactly where to be, exactly when to fire. They moved like a dance, perfectly coordinated. Target the lead Varathian ship, Captain Bora commanded. All fighters concentrate fire on the same shield point. Fire on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. 60 fighters fired simultaneously at the exact same spot on the Varathian shield. The shield flickered. For just a moment, less than a second, it dropped. That was when Jae-hoon made his discovery. "Captain," he shouted, "the shield has a recalibration gap. After we hit it, it goes down for 0.3 seconds before coming back up." Bora understood immediately. "All ships, new tactic. Rapid fire sequence. Hit them. Wait 0.2 seconds, hit them again during the gap." The human fighters adjusted their attack pattern. First wave hits the shield. Short pause. Second wave fires through the gap. The Varathian ship shuddered as human weapons struck its hull directly. Alarms blared inside the alien vessel. The humans had found a weakness. Admiral Jiwan saw what Jae-hoon discovered. Within seconds, every human ship in the fleet knew about the shield gap. They all adjusted their firing patterns. 3 Varathian capital ships exploded in quick succession, their shields useless against the new tactic. Warlord Thexral watched from his command ship in disbelief. 3 capital ships destroyed in minutes. The humans should not be able to do this. Their technology was primitive. Their numbers were small. How were they coordinating so perfectly? "Pull back," he ordered. "Regroup at safe distance. We need to analyze their tactics." The Varathian fleet retreated. For the first time in 1,000 years, they withdrew from a battle against an inferior force. On the human ships, crews cheered. They had won the first engagement. But Admiral Jiwan did not celebrate. "This is only the beginning," she told her officers. "The Varathians will adapt. They will bring more ships. We hurt them today, but we did not stop them. Everyone prepare for the next attack." On New Seoul, Captain Dae-jung was trapped. His ship had been destroyed during the initial attack. He managed to evacuate to the surface with 30 crew members. Now they hid in the ruins of the colony while Varathian troops searched for survivors. The Varathian soldiers were huge, nearly 3 meters tall, armed with plasma weapons and heavy armor. They moved through the destroyed city, scanning for life signs. Dae-jung and his crew hid in the basement of a collapsed building, barely breathing. "Captain, we cannot hide forever," whispered Engineer Min Seo. "They will find us eventually." Dae-jung nodded. "Then we do not hide, we fight. But we fight smart. Remember your survival training. Guerrilla warfare. Hit them when they are not looking. Disappear before they respond. Make them afraid to walk through their own conquered territory." That night, Dae-jung led his first raid. They found a small Varathian patrol, only 3 soldiers. Using improvised explosives and captured weapons, they attacked from hiding. The Varathians never saw them. The aliens died without firing a shot. The next day, Dae-jung contacted other survivors. Hundreds of colonists had escaped into the ruins. Together they formed resistance cells. They learned to hide underground, to move silently, to strike without warning. The Varathians controlled New Seoul, but they could not move safely anywhere. Varathian casualties began to mount. 10 soldiers here, 20 soldiers there. Supply convoys disappeared. Communication stations exploded. The Varathians had conquered hundreds of planets before, but they had never faced an enemy like this. These humans would not accept defeat. Back on Earth, President Young-mi addressed the Commonwealth. Her face appeared on screens across human space. She looked tired but determined. "My fellow humans," she said, "the war has begun. We have lost colonies. We have lost friends. We have lost family. The Varathians think they can break us. They think we will surrender if they just kill enough of us. They are wrong. Every human who falls makes us stronger. Every colony they take costs them blood. We are fighting a long war now, not a war of one battle or one year. This is a war of survival. And humanity has always been very good at surviving. She outlined the new strategy. Human colonies would evacuate to defendable positions. Every abandoned colony would be stripped of resources. The Varathians would conquer empty worlds and ruined cities. Meanwhile, human shipyards would work constantly, building new vessels to replace losses. Dr. Hyrin worked in her laboratory, analyzing the battle data. The quantum communication network had worked perfectly, but she wanted more. She studied captured Varathian shield technology, looking for additional weaknesses. Late one night, she made a breakthrough. The Varathian shields operated on a fixed frequency. If humans could build a weapon that matched that frequency exactly, it could pass through the shields entirely, gap or no gap. She immediately contacted Admiral Jiwan. How long to build this weapon? Jiwan asked. 6 months for a prototype, Hayren replied. Another 6 months for mass production. You have 4 months total, Jiwan said. We do not have time for perfect. We need something that works, Hayren nodded. She would work faster. She had to. Human lives depended on it. The war continued for 3 months. The Varathians took 12 human colonies, but each conquest cost them more than the last. Human resistance fighters made occupation impossible. Human fleets used hit-and-run tactics, never fighting fair, always exploiting weaknesses. Warlord Thexeral grew frustrated. He sent reports back to the Varathian High Council demanding more troops, more ships, more resources. The council began to question him. Why was this taking so long? Why were casualties so high? These were supposed to be primitive humans. They fight unlike any species we have faced, Thexeral tried to explain. They do not defend fixed positions. They attack from everywhere and nowhere. They coordinate perfectly. It is as if they share one mind. The council was not impressed. You have conquered 47 species. You will conquer this one. Stop making excuses and finish the war. Lieutenant Jae-hoon was promoted to captain after the Battle of New Seoul. He now commanded an entire squadron. In 3 months of combat, he had destroyed 8 Varathian ships and lost only 2 pilots. His tactics were studied by every fighter pilot in the human fleet, but he was also tired. Every day brought new battles. Every week brought news of destroyed colonies. Friends died. Crew members died. Sometimes Jae-hoon wondered if humanity could really win this war. Then he remembered Admiral Jiwan's words. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not lose. On New Seoul, Captain Dae-jung had grown a beard and wore torn clothing. He looked like a homeless colonist, not a starship captain. That was the point. He moved through the ruins freely while Varathian patrols walked past him. The aliens could not tell humans apart very well. He had united all the resistance cells on New Seoul. Nearly 5,000 fighters now followed his orders. They had weapons, supplies, and a communication network hidden in the old underground tunnels. The Varathians officially controlled the planet, but they controlled nothing at night. One evening, Varathian reinforcements arrived at the New Seoul spaceport. Dae-jung watched them land from a hidden position. Hundreds of troops, dozens of vehicles. The Varathians were strengthening their occupation force. That night, the resistance destroyed the entire spaceport. Massive explosions lit the sky. Varathian ships burned. Ammunition depots exploded. The attack lasted 15 minutes. By the time Varathian reinforcements arrived, the resistance fighters had vanished into the ruins. The Varathian commander on New Seoul sent an urgent message to Warlord Thexeral. We cannot hold this planet. The humans are ghosts. They are everywhere. Request permission to withdraw. Thexeral refused. The Varathian Empire does not retreat. Hold the planet or die trying. Captain Dae-jung stood on the bridge of the TSS Horizon and watched the stars. He had been exploring space for 20 years, but today felt different. Something was wrong. The sensors showed unusual readings ahead. Large ships, very large ships, ships that were not human. The communications officer turned to him with wide eyes. Captain, we are receiving a message. It is not in any language we know. The computer is translating now. Dae-jung felt his heart beat faster. This was first contact. After 200 years of space travel, humans were finally meeting another intelligent species. He straightened his uniform and said, "Put it on screen." The screen filled with an alien face. The creature had 4 eyes, dark blue skin, and sharp teeth. It wore armor covered in strange symbols. When it spoke, the computer translated its words into Korean, then English. I am Warlord Thexeral of the Varathian Empire. You are humans. Your species is new to this region of space. You will listen carefully to what I say next. Daejung kept his voice calm. This is Captain Daejung of the Terran Commonwealth. We come in peace, the warlord made a sound like laughter. Peace is not yours to offer. The Varathian Empire rules 3,000 star systems. We have conquered 47 different species. You are number 48. You have 30 days to surrender all your worlds. If you refuse, we will destroy every human colony, every city, every ship. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning. The screen went black. Daejung stood frozen for a moment. Around him, the bridge crew looked shocked. Nobody spoke. Then the communications officer said quietly, "Captain, they broadcast that message to every human colony." Everyone heard it. Daejung closed his eyes. 30 days. In 30 days, humanity would either surrender or face total war with an empire that had conquered 47 other species. He opened his eyes and gave orders. Set course for Earth, maximum speed. The Commonwealth Council needs to hear this directly from us. On Earth, panic spread like fire. The Varathian message played on every screen, every device, in every language. People gathered in streets, in homes, in government buildings. Some cried. Some prayed. Some demanded action. President Young-mi called an emergency meeting of the Commonwealth Council. Leaders from all 47 human colonies attended through hologram. The room buzzed with frightened voices. Young-mi raised her hand for silence. "We have 30 days to make the most important decision in human history," she said. "Do we fight or do we surrender?" Admiral Ji-won, the commander of all Terran military forces, stood up. She was 70 years old with gray hair and cold eyes. She had fought in 3 colonial wars and never lost a battle. "We fight," she said simply. "I have studied the Varathian ships from Captain Daejung's scans. They are powerful, but they are not invincible. We can hurt them." Diplomat Hyun-soo shook his head. "Admiral, they have conquered 47 species." 47! "What makes you think we can succeed where so many others failed?" "Because we will not fight their way," Ji-won replied. "Every species they conquered probably tried to match their strength directly. We will not be so foolish. We will be smarter. We will be faster. We will never stop adapting." President Young-mi listened to hours of debate. Some wanted to negotiate. Some wanted to run and hide in distant systems. But most agreed with Admiral Ji-won. Humanity would not kneel. Finally, Young-mi made her decision. "We will defend ourselves," she announced. "Activate the emergency defense protocol. Recall all military ships. Begin evacuation of the outer colonies. And someone find me our best scientists. If we are going to fight the deadliest empire in the galaxy, we need every advantage we can get." Dr. Hayrin received the summons while working in her laboratory on Mars. She was humanity's leading weapons researcher, a quiet woman who preferred equations to people. When she arrived at the Commonwealth military headquarters, Admiral Ji-won was waiting. "Doctor, I need weapons that can kill Varathian ships," the Admiral said. "What do you have?" Hayrin pulled up her files. "I have been working on something. Project Horizon. It is not a weapon exactly. It is a communication system using quantum entanglement. It allows instant communication across any distance." Ji-won frowned. "How does that help us fight?" "Because it means our ships can coordinate perfectly in real time," Hayrin explained. "No delay, no lag. Every ship, every fighter, every weapon moving as one single mind. The Varathians use faster-than-light relays, which means they have communication delays. We will not. That is our advantage." Ji-won smiled for the first time in days. "How fast can you deploy this across the entire fleet?" "Give me 20 days. While Earth prepared for war, young Lieutenant Jae-hoon sat in the cockpit of his fighter and tried not to think about dying. He was 26 years old. He had trained his entire adult life to be a pilot, but he never expected to fight a real war. Now he was about to face an empire that had never lost. His squadron commander, a stern woman named Captain Bo-ra, gathered all the pilots for a briefing. "Listen carefully," she said. "The Varathians are bigger than us, stronger than us. Their shields are better. Their weapons are better. Everything about them is better except one thing. They are not creative. They fight the same way they have fought for 1,000 years. We are going to do things they do not expect. We are going to survive by being unpredictable." Jae-hoon raised his hand. "What if being unpredictable is not enough?" Bora looked at him with serious eyes. "Then we die. But we die fighting. We die free. That is more than 47 other species can say." Far across the galaxy in the capital city of the Varathian Empire, Warlord Thexral met with his commanders. They stood in a massive war room decorated with the flags of conquered species. 47 flags. Soon there would be 48. The humans have not responded to our ultimatum, one commander said. Do you think they will surrender? Thexral laughed. It does not matter. They will surrender or they will die. Our intelligence reports say they are a young species. They have only basic weapons, basic ships, basic technology. This will be the easiest conquest in Empire history. We will use them as slave labor to build our next fleet. Another commander asked. Should we send more ships? Make sure of victory? No, Thexral said. The fleet we have is already excessive. These humans will learn what every other species learned. Resistance is futile. The Varathian Empire is eternal. The commanders nodded. They had heard this speech before. 47 times before. It was always true. The Empire always won. Back on Earth, the countdown continued. 20 days left. Then 15, then 10. Across human space, families said goodbye. Soldiers prepared for battle. Scientists worked through the night. Everyone knew that in a few short days everything would change. President Young Mi did not sleep. She spent every hour making preparations. Evacuation routes, supply lines, backup plans. She knew that many humans would die in the coming war. Perhaps all of them. But she also knew that some things were worth dying for. Freedom, dignity, the right to exist without bowing to tyrants. On the last day before the deadline, Admiral Ji-Wan stood before the assembled fleet. Thousands of ships, hundreds of thousands of crew members. She spoke to them all through quantum communication, her voice reaching every ship simultaneously. Tomorrow the Varathians will come, she said. They think we will surrender. They think we will beg. They think we are just another species to conquer. They are wrong. We are humanity. We do not surrender. We do not beg. And we do not lose. The fleet roared its approval. In his fighter, Lieutenant Jae-hoon felt his fear turn to determination. In her laboratory, Dr. Hayrin activated the last quantum node. On the bridge of the horizon, Captain Daejung checked his weapons one final time. 30 days had passed. The deadline had arrived. In the darkness of space, the Varathian fleet appeared. Thousands of massive warships, each one capable of destroying a city. They moved toward human space like a wall of death. Warlord Thexral sent one final message. This is your last chance. Surrender now or face annihilation. President Young Mi herself replied. Her voice was calm and clear. The Terran Commonwealth does not surrender. If you want our worlds, you will have to take them. But I warn you, Warlord, you have made a terrible mistake. You challenged humanity. That was your last error. The communication ended. For a moment there was only silence. Then the Varathian fleet opened fire and the war began.